You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I am your host, Steph, and today we're going to be talking about the 49ers win against the Saints. The 49ers just won 13-0 against the New Orleans Saints. So we're going to talk all about it. Before we do that, just really quickly, want to go over some of the news that happened before the game. Always set the stage. The 49ers they promoted T.Y. McGill to the active roster from the team's practice squad. And this is pretty much like a permanent move at this point because they had brought him up so many times from the practice squad that they've pretty much reached their max amount of bringing him up or elevation. So now it's official. He's on the 53. They waived Kemoko Toure in order to do that. And I believe T.Y. McGill had a play in this game, if I'm not mistaken. So making his presence felt, we love to see it. Deebo Samuel, who was a little iffy going into the week because he had a hamstring injury, was somewhat limited in practice this week. He was active. Eric Armstead inactive, along with some of the other usual suspects. But the 49ers won the toss and they deferred, so they would get the ball to start the second half, and that ended up being somewhat of a big deal, but I'll talk about that. And as far as the Saints, they did have some players coming back in this game, as I had mentioned in my preview episode. So they had Cameron Jordan and Marcus Davenport coming back in this game. So they get a boost on their defensive line, as well as Bradley Roby, I believe, was also back for this game. So the Saints, I had mentioned, this had the possibility of being a very I said it could be a close game, but I also did say that it could be a low-scoring game, and that it was. The 49ers were the only team that scored in this game, but not quite the offensive powerhouse that we had seen in the last couple of weeks. So it might have been disappointing to some, but quite honestly, that was kind of what I expected going into this game because the Saints defense, from what I had seen, all of the rankings that I looked at going ahead of this game, I thought they were a lot better than what the Saints record would seem to indicate. And that kind of ended up, showing up in the game as well. So the Saints get the ball first. They converted on a 3rd and inches. The 49ers forced a fumble on Kamara, though, on the very first Saints drive. Kamara with a fumble, and the Saints are 30th in giveaways per game. So again, this wasn't a surprise to me. I said in my preview episodes that if the 49ers just played their game and try to get those turnover opportunities whenever available or force those opportunities, I think they'd have a good chance in this one. And all in all, the 49ers defense forced 2 fumbles on Alvin Kamara, so they won the turnover battle in this one. And so the 49ers got the ball back after that possession, and so they got the ball to start the game on the Saints 41. Then on 3rd and 6, Jimmy Garoppolo to Deebo Samuel underneath, and that went for a gain of 20 yards to get the 49ers in the red zone early. The 49ers go for it on 4th and 1, which I loved. I mean, how often have I been kind of critical of Kyle Shanahan not being aggressive enough on 4th down? And he went for it twice on 4th down in this game. So even though it didn't work out exactly how, you would have liked, ended up being a field goal on this one that they had to settle for. I still like the aggression showed there, and I want to see more of it. So, pretty much there was a miscommunication with George Kittle and Jimmy Garoppolo, it seemed, on the 3rd and goal that kind of, threw off that being a touchdown. But I still like the aggression. So the 49ers did settle for a field goal after the 3rd and goal attempt to George Kittle went incomplete. And the 49ers go up early 3-0. And then the Saints get the ball back. They got into a quick 3rd and 11 situation. Dalton is rushed out of the pocket with the pocket collapsing, but Dalton is able to scramble to his left and nearly got the first down, but they called it 4th and 1, thankfully. Credit to Fred Warner, who was all over the place in this game. Fred Warner playing out of his mind. I mean, we've become so accustomed to it. I think that it's almost like we forget to appreciate just how good Fred Warner is because he's always this good. But I think he had an especially good game in this one, and he deserves a lot of credit. So the defense forced the Saints to punt pretty quickly there. And so the 49ers, little over 5 minutes left in the first quarter, they start their drive with a pass to George Kittle, a trend that we'd seen in the previous game. The 49ers electing to throw on first down. And Jimmy Garoppolo threw the ball quite a lot in this game. Let me see. I believe I had the final numbers for Jimmy Garoppolo. Let's see. He finished with... I'll say it later. I don't have it in my notes right in front of me, but he threw it a lot. I mean, at halftime, he had thrown it for 28. He had thrown it 28 times, which is a lot given the fact that in the previous week he had thrown it 29, and 29 even for this team is kind of looked at as a lot. So it was a little surprising. The 49ers continuing to lean in to, being pass first a little bit, which is a little odd, but hey, I mean, it kind of works, and it especially worked in this game because the Saints seem to really key in on the run game as most defenses do. So, the run game wasn't very efficient today. So they start passing to George Kittle. They got the first down on the first pass. And then on 3rd and 8, Jimmy Garoppolo, he overthrew an open McCaffrey on a wheel route. Missed opportunity there. I know a lot of people weren't too happy about that one. And so the 49ers had to punt after that. But then Saints, 2 minutes left in the first quarter. Andy Dalton hit Rashid Shaheed for a big 34-yard gain. Lenore was on coverage on that one. T.Y. McGill. Here's the big play from T.Y. McGill. He had a tackle for loss on Alvin Kamara. Saints, 3rd and 11, go for a short Kamara check down, and it's 4th and 3. So Saints punt it, but they do down it at the 49ers' own 4-yard line. So the 49ers pinned against their own end zone, have to run to get it out. And we see Elijah Mitchell pretty early in this one compared to how early we saw him in the previous game, which was, close to halftime almost, but we saw him in the first quarter today. And he gained 3 yards on his first carry. Saints playing the 49ers defense pretty tough so far. So the 49ers offense, they were playing the 49ers offense tough. So the 49ers get into a quick 3rd and 6 situation, but Garoppolo had a great throw to George Kittle on an out route. Kittle was one-on-one on his defender. Great decision to throw it there and get the conversion. Then on another 3rd down situation, this time 3rd and 12, the 49ers go conservative, and Jimmy Garoppolo gets McCaffrey on a check down for a short gain. So obviously they didn't convert on that one. So the 49ers did punt, and it was a short one from Mitch Wishnowsky, and the 49ers got called for a penalty to make matters worse. So the Saints, they're given great field position with 10 minutes left in the first half. Taysom Hill, he threw a dart to Olave deep. The 49ers did challenge it, though, as it looked like Olave fumbled on his way down, and it was a great challenge by Kyle Shanahan after all. I know a lot of people were like, that's a terrible challenge before it actually got reversed. But after seeing the replay, it was like, oh, yeah, that's a pretty good challenge. And so they ended up reversing that one, and that saved a pretty big play from the Saints. And then on 3rd and 14, Andy Dalton attempts one deep, getting hit as he threw, trying to find Olave downfield, but Jimmy Ward was on coverage. Great coverage by Jimmy Ward there, and it was called incomplete, so the Saints had to punt. Really quickly, what's going on, everyone, in the comments? Make sure you guys like this video if you have not yet. All right, but after that Saints punt, 49ers got the ball back. Jimmy Garoppolo threw a dart to Brandon Ayuk on this drive, gain of 27 yards. And Ayuk got a lot of action on this drive. He also had a wide open catch of 20 yards. 49ers moving. They're in the red zone. Elijah Mitchell bounced to run outside for a first down. The 49ers are inside the 10 now. And on 3rd down, Juwan Jennings makes a catch at the 1, short of the goal. Deebo Samuel then looked to be shaken up, and he limped to the sideline. It was a scary moment. Deebo Samuel did end up coming back into the game, although he did miss the end of this drive. But we'll get some injury updates from Kyle, I'm sure, pretty soon. So we'll know a little bit more shortly. And the 49ers go for it on 4th down. Like I said, this is their second time going for it on 4th down in this game. You love to see it. everyone was covered pretty much. Garoppolo looked to scramble, but he can't get to the end zone, and the 49ers turned the ball over on downs. Saints with 3 minutes left to go in the first half. Wait, just pause really quickly because I'm seeing some injury updates come in, so I want to give those to you guys as they come. Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Shanahan said he's dealing with knee irritation, or he was dealing with knee irritation during the game. He did play after, I know the broadcast mentioned he was dealing with something with his knee, and he did come back in. So hopefully that's nothing too serious. Of course, the big worry is about running back Elijah Mitchell because he left the game, was quickly deemed to be out for the rest of the game, which is not usually a good sign. Mitchell's dealt with a lot of injuries in his short career. So Kyle Shanahan did say that he likely suffered a sprained MCL. And this one happened on a different knee. It wasn't the same knee, nor is it as severe as the MCL he suffered in week 1. So I would assume he's going to be out. I'm no doctor, but I would assume he's out for a couple weeks probably. And because MCL sprain, usually you're out for a couple weeks. But again, we'll wait, to see what comes out of that in the next couple of days. We'll probably know more about his timetable for return. The 49ers, towards the end of their season here. So it's important to get these guys back. And I also want to mention, I want to take a break really quick because I was talking about the game, but really quick, there's a lot of people who are quick to jump onto the timeline and say, this is why you don't trade Jeff Wilson Jr. and blah, blah, blah. It's almost like they were waiting for an injury to happen so they can just run to Twitter to tell everyone they were right about that. And I just have to say, I was one of the people who was supportive of the 49ers trading Jeff Wilson Jr. And the reason for that is, one, I mean, he's been a great player for this team, former undrafted free agent, wanted more opportunities, totally understandable from his standpoint. I mean, with McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell set to come back, he wasn't going to get a lot of opportunities. So the 49ers decided to do right by Jeff Wilson Jr. and trade him away to, a team that he has familiarity with. I'm sure they could have traded him to another team. But they chose a great landing spot for him. So they did right by him. I am totally still okay with the 49ers trading away Jeff Wilson Jr. because, one, Wilson wanted to be traded, and two, I still think, the 49ers are pretty good at running back. They have a lot of guys, even with Elijah Mitchell out for a few weeks. We saw Jordan Mason today. I mean, Jordan Mason looks great in the limited time that he's been able to play. So hopefully everything is all right with Christian McCaffrey, but I still stand firm that the 49ers should have gotten, were right to try to get some picks for Jeff Wilson Jr. and also the fact that Jeff Wilson Jr. wanted to be traded, and they did right by him by doing that. So I'm still not mad at it. I still think it's also too early to pound our chest and make victory laps over Elijah Mitchell getting hurt. And, because the 49ers traded Jeff Wilson Jr. So anyway, that is my little rant. All right. Javier here says, in my opinion, Niners were still a little tired, possibly by having a short week. Absolutely. I mean, they did look a little tired in this game. The 49ers didn't get in from Mexico City until Tuesday morning. And I don't think they really had a full-on practice maybe until Friday. And even Friday might have been lighter than usual. So they didn't have a lot of practice time this week. It was a short week for them, making the cross-country trip. After traveling to two different cities, they did go to Denver or Colorado to acclimate last week. So there really was a lot of travel for this team last week. And yeah, they did look a little tired. Although even I still feel like the game kind of went as I expected, maybe not so much on the offensive side. I did kind of think they would score a little bit more, but still, all in all, I'm not surprised by the way that they played. But yes, they did look a little tired. But yeah, as I mentioned, Deebo Samuel did come back to the game. So the 49ers did get 2 minutes left in the half with the ball, and they get they got the ball a little after half of the field. So another great opportunity to double dip on points like they did the previous week. And Jimmy Garoppolo actually got hit and lost the ball. It goes up in the air after bouncing off of a helmet, and Kyle Juszczyk with a volleyball spike move. I've never seen anything like that, but he should maybe look into playing some volleyball too. He was able to spike the football down and make sure no one got it, because that was a scary moment. Jimmy Garoppolo, by the way, he got hit a lot in this game. Like in that first half, like Jimmy was doing a great job of getting the ball out, but not without getting hurt as he was throwing. Like he was sustaining a lot of hits. That one was one of them. And he appeared to get shaken up a little later in the game as well. And that was kind of a scary moment too, because Jimmy Garoppolo has been pretty healthy this season. And I think that's part of the reason he's been playing so well. So definitely need a healthy Jimmy. And, it was a gutsy performance by Jimmy as well. He didn't do as much as we've seen the last couple of weeks, but I think he did certainly enough to win in some key moments, right? So, credit to Jimmy for that, and hopefully he's okay with his knee. So then on this drive, it was a 3rd and 10. Jimmy Garoppolo, he threw a strike to Juwan Jennings across the middle and was able to convert. Then on 1st down, Elijah Mitchell with blockers in front of him. He gets an open lane, gets a touchdown, but it's called back with another flag. This game was riddled with penalties from both teams. I believe the 49ers had 7 penalties to the Saints 6, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So 15 penalties in all. And so that's quite a lot. But the call right there, it was the George Kittle holding is what they called it on the Elijah Mitchell callback touchdown. And that was a little questionable. I know Kyle Shanahan was very upset. If you guys saw on the broadcast, he was swearing to the refs. He was swearing on the sidelines. Very angry that one was called back. So anyway, the 49ers had to live for another down. On 2nd and 4, Jimmy's able to get the ball out as he's getting sacked. But it gets sorry, I'm reading my notes and I'm like, what am I trying to say here? Elijah Mitchell nearly gets the 1st down, but he's just not. So then it's 3rd and 1. Saints get called for a late hit on Juwan Jennings after he had already caught the ball and on his way out of bounds. So again, penalties working against both teams at different points of the game. This time it was against the Saints, and the 49ers were able to get a 1st down, and that was a 3rd down, so that was big, and they were able to get some extra yards too. So there's now 19 seconds left in the first half. Tyrann Mathieu tipped the Jimmy Garoppolo pass, but Juwan Jennings on his way down, he's able to locate the ball. It kind of falls right to him actually, and he's able to come down with the touchdown. So the 49ers go up 10-0. And at halftime, the 49ers at that point, they had run 42 plays in the first half to the Saints 21. So 49ers were dominating the time of possession at halftime. Jimmy was 20 of 28 for 175 yards and a touchdown. He had, as I mentioned, 29 passing attempts total last week against the Cardinals. So for him at halftime to already have 28 passing attempts was kind of weird, but like crazy. But defense, we talked about the defense shutting out teams in the second half, but they shut out the Saints in the first half as well. And as we know, they ended up shutting out the Saints in the entire game. So, that makes 4 straight games they've shut out an opposing offense for an entire half. But yes, the other streak of shutting out a game, an opposing offense in the second half, that is still going to 4th straight game. They've done that as well. So the 49ers get the ball after the half, and the 49ers start their drive on the ground with Elijah Mitchell. 49ers are moving the ball, and Jimmy Garoppolo is then intercepted. It was bound to happen, okay? He's bound to throw an interception. But oh, wait. It was called back because of a Saints penalty. Saints Harris was called for defensive holding. So another penalty that erases a big play for one team or the other. This time it was the Saints' big play, getting that interception. Glad that did not count. So what? Is this like the fourth week in a row that Jimmy has gone without throwing an interception? Right? That's insane. That's crazy. Well, all right. Then on a great Debo run, 49ers get called for a penalty. So they're just trading penalties at this point. Saints then get called for roughing the passer. That's the one where Jimmy Garoppolo got shaken up on and his knee got landed on. And I don't know if that was the knee that he had the ACL injury to, like that he had surgically repaired. I couldn't remember, but if you guys know in the comments, let me know. But either way, not good that he got his knee landed on. At least finally, Jim Garoppolo gets one of those roughing the passers called because he's not one of those quarterbacks that gets those called for him very often. So a little bit of justice is served a little bit. So the 49ers get an automatic first down, but again, like that's not what you wanted to see. Jimmy Garoppolo has been healthy this season, and so I'm a little nervous, about what this next week holds. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo was able to finish the game, and he seemed fine enough to do that. But if he's not 100%, I worry about him like regressing a little bit. And so that's something to keep an eye on throughout the week. And I'm going to check my phone really quick, see if there's any updates on Jimmy Garoppolo. So I guess Spencer Burford was seen in a walking boot to keep his right ankle stable after the game. Kyle Shanahan did say that he did not suffer a high ankle sprain, though. So that's good because high ankle sprains keep guys out for several weeks. So if it's not one of those, that's a good sign. Let's see if there's any other injury updates. Okay, I haven't seen any. So maybe there wasn't anything on Jimmy Garoppolo. I haven't seen. Okay. All right. Well, I'll take it. But yeah, we'll see how that shakes out the rest of the week. So back to this drive, though. The 49ers do get called for an illegal shift after another positive play on a Jordan Mason run. And again, what we later found out was that Jordan Mason was in the game this early because Elijah Mitchell exited the game due to a knee injury. If you guys didn't catch it a little bit ago, as I mentioned, Kyle Shanahan said it's an MCL injury to his knee. And not as severe. So maybe some slightly good news because I was fearing seeing him on the bench and seeing, players really sad for him. I was fearing that it was like potentially a season ending injury for Elijah Mitchell. So it sounds like it's not, but yeah, we'll just wait to hear what they say throughout the week about Elijah Mitchell, but it's an MCL injury to his knee. Then on 3rd and 11, pass attempted for Brandon Ayuk downfield was defended pretty well by Saints corner Debo, forced the incompletion. And looked like the refs missed a face mask on that one, but the refs were terrible in this game, so I'm not surprised, to be honest. And the 49ers just have to settle for a field goal, but they pushed the lead to 13-0, and that's pretty much what the final score ended up being. But the Saints get the ball back after the half for the first time, and Kamara converted on 3rd and 1. Basically, the Saints are moving the ball. And Jimmy Ward, he does get some medical attention on the field after running onto the field for a play, which was weird because it was no contact, and he just looked shaken up. He got medical attention, but he walked off by himself and went into the medical tent. And he didn't miss much time. He came back in like a play or two later, and he finished the game. So this is now the second week in a row that Jimmy Ward scares us with an injury, but I'm glad he's okay. So on 3rd and 5 on that drive, D'Amico Ryans, second half D'Amico Ryans, respect him. He called the blitz with Fred Warner, which rushed Dalton to make an incomplete pass, an errant throw pretty much. And Saints, they go for it on 4th down, which, by the way, the Saints going for it on 4th down kind of helped, or definitely helped the 49ers complete that shutout because the 49ers were able to stop the Saints on 4th down every attempt in the second half. So yeah, the Saints were going aggressive on fourth down, but they weren't able to get anything going. This time, they were called on a false start on fourth down, so they had to go for the field goal. It was a 48-yarder, and you're like, oh, God, okay. Yeah, the streak's going to end right here. But Will Lutz, their kicker, it's no good. He misses the kick. And so the 49ers second half shutout streak still alive. We're all very happy about it. And so on the 49ers following drive, as I mentioned, Spencer Burford, he gets shaken up with an ankle injury, exits the game. If you guys missed what I said about Spencer Burford a small bit ago, he does not have a high ankle sprain, which is good, but we'll just have to continue to keep an eye on, what the actual, I guess, prognosis is on Burford. But high ankle sprain to be ruled out is a positive, so we will take that. Brunskill ended up finishing the game for Spencer Burford. And that's the point in which the broadcast mentioned that McCaffrey was dealing with something with his knee. And it seems like McCaffrey was dealing with Kyle Shanahan said it was knee irritation. So hopefully he'll be okay for next week. It could be, again, like just the fact that it's such a short week. There wasn't a lot of practice, leading up to this game. So hopefully that's the case, and hopefully it's nothing that worsens for McCaffrey. And then on 3rd and 9, Brandon Ayuk gets a catch, but it's short of the sticks. And so the 49ers, with a quick 3 and out, are forced to punt. So the Saints get the ball back. Really, the entire second half was actually mostly the Saints just having the ball the entire time. But also it was the 49ers defense stopping them every single time. The Saints got into the red zone on their following drive. Olave got the Saints into the 10. Dalton with a pass to Kamara short of the end zone. And I believe it was Greenlaw that hit him first. And then Hufanga comes in and, he hits him hard enough and by the ball that he forces the ball out, and it's recovered by the 49ers defense. That is the second fumble by the defense and second on Kamara. And so, again, when the Saints are in the red zone, the 49ers defense found a way to keep their second half shutout streak alive. It's just a thing of beauty, really. And so at this point, Burford had been ruled out with his ankle injury. The 49ers go on another 3 and out, forced to punt again. And so the Saints, again, driving. Fred Warner playing out of his mind, forces an incompletion in the end zone. Big play for Fred there to save the touchdown. Then on 3rd and 6 with the ball inside the 10, Fred Warner again with the big forced incompletion, but Lenore's called for defensive holding, and that'll give the Saints the ball at the 4-yard line with a new set of downs. So again, I was like, oh man, the streak's gonna end right here. There's just no way they can hold them this many times. They're probably just gonna score here, which is fine because at that point it was pretty late in the 4th and whatever. I made my peace with it, I think. But then on 3rd and goal, Dalton passes an incomplete fade to Taysom Hill in the end zone, to Sean Gibson on coverage. And so they go for it on 4th and goal, of course. And Nick Bosa comes through with the sack on Andy Dalton. And that was the defense's only sack of the day. They hadn't gotten to Andy Dalton at all. Dalton was doing a pretty good job of getting the ball out, in time before the defense was able to get to them. And, it just seemed like there wasn't a lot of pressure on Dalton throughout the day. But the 49ers, Nick Bosa gets a sack when it mattered the most on 4th and goal. That was Bosa's 11th and a half sack of the season. And this defense, once again, kept their streak alive when it just seemed near impossible to do it. It's just incredible what this defense did today and what they've been doing this season, these last few weeks. Credit to DeMeco Ryans, credit to all of these players. I mean, I just can't say enough about, some of these guys and what they've been able to accomplish for this team. So Jordan Mason ended up closing out the game for the 49ers. He was averaging 5 yards per carry on his 5 carries. And again, the 49ers defense just did a great job of limiting the Saints' biggest threats. Alvin Kamara only had 15 total yards. He also had the 2 fumbles. Taysom Hill limited to just 20 total yards. Chris Olave had 62 receiving yards, no touchdowns. I'll take that any day. I mean, the defense just did a great job of doing what they were supposed to do. My keys of the game was just like stop Alvin Kamara first, which they did, and just make sure like Taysom Hill doesn't, go crazy on any play or anything. And they did a great job of, really keying in on him when he was in the game. I know they had Hufanga playing low whenever he was in there. So, they were just prepared for everything that the Saints offense was going to do. And I mean, just credit to the man, because it wasn't so much that they stopped the Saints from getting into the red zone, because they really didn't. I mean, they got to the red zone several times, but it was just the fact that they made big plays when it mattered the most. And man, I can't say enough good things about this defense. They're now the lowest scoring defense in the league. Actually, they've been the lowest scoring defense in the league at 15.7 points allowed per game. Dallas is the second at 17 points per game. They still allow the fewest yards per game. They're only allowing 281.7 yards per game. The next closest is Philly, the Eagles, at 300.6 yards per game. And I also want to say this, like early in the season, and I tweeted this out, like I had criticized this team because they couldn't win unless things went perfectly, unless they played their game, which is a very specific type of game, running the football and, the defense holds the opposing offense and things like that. And in this game, I think what they proved to me with this one is that this run that they're on, they've now won 4 in a row. This run is for real, because even when things were less than ideal, many things happened in this game. Elijah Mitchell getting hurt, Spencer Burford going out with his injury, Jimmy Garoppolo playing on, one leg. Like, he was not 100%. I don't care what anyone says. He wasn't 100% after he hit his leg, and he was getting hit a lot even before that, which, he just looked a little shaky, So even with all of those things being as they were, the 49ers still found a way to gut out a win. And, again, keeping their second half shutout streak alive as well. So I don't care what anyone says. This win was big just for that fact. I know the 49ers only scored 13. You're hoping always that they score way more, because our criticism of this team has been that they haven't been able to score many points. But again, I expected the Saints defense to be pretty good in this one. I expected the offense to struggle a little bit, and still they're finding ways to win. They're now changing the way that they win. As I mentioned, they're throwing the ball more, and they're still winning by doing that. And Jimmy Garoppolo, I know he did throw the interception, but it did not count. So, he's, besides that, he is taking care of the football, and the fact that it didn't count matters, right? Because had it counted, that would have made a huge difference. But yeah, I mean, I'm just impressed by the 49ers these last 4 games. Again, got to consider the fact it was on a short week. I mean, as Javier says, it looked like they were tired, and it definitely did. The defense played a ton of minutes in the second half, and, still being able to shut out the defense, shut out the Saints is just incredible. So the 49ers, they're now 7-4 after winning this one. And again, it's their 4th in a row. The Seahawks lost in overtime against the Raiders. Thank you, Raiders, for not screwing it up. So the Seahawks, the 49ers have pretty much sole possession of first place still. And now they seem to have a pretty good commanding hold of that first place after the Seahawks lost. So this is the 49ers division. They're in control of their own destiny, as we say always, but this was an important game and an important win for this team. So we're just going to have to keep an eye on, the injuries throughout the week, see what happens there. The 49ers have another huge game, an AFC team, but it's not just any AFC team. It's against the Dolphins, who, as we know, is an offensive powerhouse this season. So it'll be interesting to see how that game goes. And I'm just really excited. I'll be at that game. So I really hope they win. My brother told me there's a chance it rains for that one. I really hope not, but God, I feel like there's been a lot of rain games this season. But yeah, all in all, I'm really happy with the 49ers today and how they were able to gut out a win. That's just you have to prove that you can win these kind of games, especially against an inferior opponent. And so credit to the 49ers for getting it done. And yeah, guys, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure that you like this video if you have not yet. We're so close to being able to monetize on this channel. So make sure you give a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share. Okay. I appreciate all the love and have a good rest of your night. Peace.